Awesome. All right, let's kick this off. Thanks, everyone, for joining this session. So, my name is Dillon Erb. I am formerly the co-founder of Paperspace, which was acquired by DigitalOcean last year. And currently, I run AI strategy here at DigitalOcean. Among other things, I get to work with some amazing companies, building some pretty incredible things. So today, I am joined by three awesome companies that I'm super excited about. And we're going to talk about a bit about what you guys are building. But before we start off, let me just kind of hand it over to you guys for introductions. So maybe just tell me, who you are and a bit about the company, just a quick blurb about what you're building, and then we'll just jump right in. I'll start with Zach. You.
Yeah. Hey, I'm Zach. I'm a machine learning engineer at Nomic. Nomic builds visualization software for embedding spaces. So if you have a bunch of unstructured data, you can upload, tens of millions of tweets and upload it to Atlas, which is our main product, and see all the different topics that emerge. So you'll have like a cluster of sports, and inside that sports cluster, you have like the NBA, and then somewhere else on the map, you'll have like a cluster of BTS and music, which is really great for ML people trying to understand what goes into their models, which is always one of the bigger parts in getting great performance. It is also great for people that are non-technical or less technical, just understanding like what data they are feeding to large language models that they're using in production now. I focus mostly on embedding models. I trained a text embedding model that we released in February that beat OpenAI's Ada and text embedding 3 small, which handles long context. And we recently released a vision embedding model that's aligned to that text model. So now you can, in Atlas, do semantic search across your images. So if you have a bunch of web scraped images and you want to find where your content filters might be failing, you can do a search for the different filters that you care about. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Zach. Jacob.
Of course. I'm the CEO and founder of Supermaven. My name is Jacob Jackson. We're building a coding assistant that will pop up with suggestions for the code you might be about to write as you're typing. The biggest advantages of Supermaven is that it's really fast, number one. And number two is we have a really long context window, so it can consume and understand all of your company's code and then produce suggestions that fit with the style and conventions of your company's code base.
Awesome. Jang.
Hi, it's great to be here. My name is Yanqin Jar, and I'm the founder and CEO of Lepton AI. And what we do is we build an AI cloud, allowing people to basically better orchestrate GPUs from different sources, and having a full-fledged platform to run training, deployment, and especially putting things into AI applications. We also, on top of that, built one of the fastest deep learning or LLM engine to run open source models as efficient as possible, 3 to 5 times faster than open source alternatives. And in general, people see something about multiple X performance boost, and both in development speed and deployment speed. Think of us as the equivalent of say Vercel in the front end fashion, or Databricks and Snowflake in the data fashion. There's the front end cloud, there's the data cloud, and then we aim to be the AI cloud.
Awesome. Thank you. So, you guys are all experts in this space. AI is at some level a buzzword to some folks, but also it's very real. It's a real part of what you guys are building. So I just to kind of orient us, if you could say just a few words about maybe where you are in your AI journey, your training models, you're using existing models, you're helping people deploy models, all the way to, using AI assisted code development tools like Supermaven. So explain a bit about kind of how, obviously you guys are training models, but, the different ways that sort of AI development works at your company and how you guys utilize it.
Sure. So we train our own models, and we serve inference for them as well. Core to our value proposition is being really fast. So it's important to us to have fast inference. And the nice thing about competing partially on speed as well as quality is that, when your model has to be really fast, obviously you can't hit those kinds of latency targets with a trillion parameter model, right? You need a model that is the right size for the kind of responsiveness you want. And, that makes it much easier to compete as a small startup, because it limits the amount of money you have to spend on training a giant model. if you want to train your own models.
Totally makes sense. Zheng, tell me about how you guys are kind of leveraging trained models and training your own models and everywhere in that spectrum.
Yeah, so totally. So we basically help people train their models actually, since we are like an infra and platform company. One of the most important part today is basically like GPUs are hugely expensive. So once you acquire the GPUs, you actually want to basically make sure that you're actually utilizing them to the maximum capability, right? And so we've been actually veterans in this AI field for quite some time. We've developed, Cafe, Onyx, PyTorch, and things like that over the years. So we kind of feel that we know the best about, how training should be carried out and also how inference should be carried out from a kind of like a software framework kind of fashion. And we normally see that people are really good at designing algorithms, and the boring but essential part of maintaining or actually making sure that the training jobs are running smoothly, inference are being run in high performance, and all those kind of interesting tricks in research like dynamic batching, speculative decoding, prompt caching, and things like that are properly incorporated into a standard-ish software, so that people don't need to like re-implement those. Those are basically like what we have been doing, and we've been serving customers who are basically some of them were actually basically like processing at tens of billions token per day kind of fashion, and they've been pretty happy about it. I think like with new development in AI and modeling and things like that, a proper modern software stack is pretty much needed and helpful.
Totally makes sense. Zach, can you hear me? Just curious to hear.
Yeah. Can you hear me okay now?
Awesome. Yeah, loud and clear. So the question, in case your Wi-Fi cut out, just curious about how you guys both utilize AI internally, as well as tell us a bit about kind of how you're developing it yourself.
Yeah. Look, I mentioned before, our core product is Atlas, and what we really care about is encoding the semantics of unstructured data. So basically what that means is we take, either it's text or images, and we convert that to embeddings. And, the way that we do that is through these embedding models like Nomic Embed Text and Nomic Embed Vision. So, we train all these models in-house because, we found that the ones that are open source either lack, context length or just aren't, up to the standards that we care about. So we've mostly spent the last 6 to 8 months training these models. They do tend to run a little bit smaller just because we're a smaller ML team and we have to iterate a little bit faster. But yeah, leveraging these embedding models allows people to really interact with large scales of unstructured data. Maybe you're a company like Jacob and you, at Supermaven, and you want to understand like, okay, which code should we actually include in our training data? Or you're a consultant at a company, you get like 1,000 unstructured answers to a question on a survey, and you understand like the sentiment of all the different responses. So there's definitely a lot of different applications of AI with Atlas, and the backbone of it is these embedding models.
Totally. So I think you guys brought up two interesting points here. So Lepton, helping folks train and deploy their own models or fine tune and deploy. Nomic, kind of building out some of the foundational pieces of the data stack. So just even being able to wrangle massive data sets, which are required for these large language models. So we kind of outlined a few challenges. Zheng mentioned GPUs. You want to make sure they're fully utilized. On the data side, you probably want to make sure that you don't have duplicate data. But if you're thinking about starting an AI first company today, what are some other challenges? So, I mean, GPU, that's an obvious one. But in terms of like building out the stack, and maybe I'll ask you, Jacob, just because you're building sort of an AI native tool that is consumed by other users. As you're building out an AI first company, what are some other challenges that you faced in kind of making this, versus maybe starting a company pre-AI where you're building, just a web stack?
I mean, I think the biggest difference between an AI business and a traditional software business is the expense of running these AI models. I think in software, the cost of running your product, maybe with some exceptions like high performance database or something, but the large majority of software products have a very low cost to run. Almost all of the cost is in, R&D to develop the software, marketing, finding customers for your software. And then once you've got people using it and it's delivering value to them, the cost to provide that value to you is very low, and that drives a lot of the way software businesses work. AI businesses are completely different because these GPUs are very expensive. They require power to run, which is why we use Paperspace. And so you have a business that looks very different financially from a traditional software business. And I think people are still trying to figure out exactly how that plays out into how you should think about these businesses differently.
Totally. I think, and that I think impacts things like, for example, just like speed of development or iteration. If you have a kind of a standard React web front end, you can deploy that 100 times a day and, get feedback in real time. If you're deploying or releasing a large scale, multimodal embedding model, that takes time. And so, as we're thinking about, I guess I'd be very curious, I know Lepton has worked with customers probably at many different stages of their AI journey. Are there any patterns you've noticed, at Lepton for, what makes a successful, AI first product that maybe is built on top of Lepton?
Right. I think, we see kind of like two different trends in this market, and they're kind of like having different stages of success. One side is basically entertainment and creation, and the other side is basically productivity. Entertainment creation is basically using AI to generate images, videos, or like chatbots and things like that. Those are actually having a faster adoption, mainly because it's more like an exploratory kind of product, and people like the experience. They're kind of like further down the line of customer acquisitions, and monetization is in like it varies basically in because whether people want to pay for say created images and videos, that depends on the quality and things like that. But it seems that there is like an enough traffic and also enough interest into that. The other side is productivity, which we think is going to be like one of the biggest changes that AI can bring. And although that kind of like comes with a big learning curve, mainly because right now if we think about it, coding bot has been kind of like well received by programmers, but we're AI people consuming AI, which is more easy. For general enterprise operations using AI to improve their productivity efficiency, it also needs quite a lot of work embedding into their own workflows, because we don't really want to open a separate chat window, paste in our documentations or documents or things like that, asking for results and pasting back the answer. So over there, I think things are moving a bit more slowly, but we are definitely seeing efficiency gains and productivity gains when these contents land into the workflows of the users, daily operations.
Definitely. I've seen kind of a, super high level breakdown. If you look at sort of large language models or foundation models today, there's kind of two capabilities that have emerged. The most obvious one is generative. It can generate text, it can generate code, it can generate images. And the other one, which I think is really interesting and it's an active area of development, is really the kind of the reasoning side. And a lot of that I think touches things like agentic processes or, using an LLM to kind of to make function calls or use tools. Maybe for Super Maven, I mean, that's kind of right at the intersection of both generative and sort of reasoning capabilities. Where do you see this technology going? Do you think that, is generative the end, or are there other advances that just from kind of how we plug these systems together that you think will lead to kind of better products and in particular, maybe in the code editing space?
I think, this space moves so quickly. AI code tools are maybe 5 years old, if that. And so it's really hard to predict what's going to work in 2 years or not going to work. But what we can say for sure is that reasoning is going to be expensive, right? It's going to cost money to run the kinds of giant foundation models that are going to have the best reasoning performance. And so it's likely that whatever tools you have that are going for these really agentic kind of workflows, they're going to have high price tags, right? Because that's the sort of thing where you need it to have some level of autonomy. You need a very low error percentage. And so it's going to be, you're going to have to be a big company and you're going to have to be willing to pay up for that.
Definitely. And, I think, certainly I've been following Nomic for a long time. And, one of the interesting things is about kind of this performance to cost ratio of the product that you deliver. So, being able to deliver, in Nomic's case, they provide open weights, open data, open training. And so they really kind of help the ecosystem with the tools to kind of roll your own solution. But fundamentally, it sounds like you guys, all three of these of your companies are in the business of really kind of tracing that kind of that Pareto optimal frontier between cost and performance. Do we see this? We've seen like the cost of tokens going down, for certain types of APIs. Do you guys see a future of everyone running their own kind of small fine-tuned model? Sort of what's the relationship between everyone using sort of the massive GPT-5 versus kind of purpose-built? The story always being like, you don't need your code editing or code completion model to also be able to recite Shakespeare. And so where do you guys see this kind of going? Maybe I'll start with you, Zach, just because I know you spent a lot of time on, high performance, embedding models.
Yeah, I think there's probably, in my opinion, two tracks of where this goes. One is, at the application layer, there'll probably be some scenarios where like you said, you don't need this giant model. You don't need this model that knows everything about, the world. It can just be very specialized. And one specific application of that would be maybe some Facebook Meta, the Ray-Ban glasses. Like you can probably run like a pretty specialized model really fast, and you care about latency there. Whereas like maybe you're running some software that you need to have the model reason over. Maybe that's a case where you use a larger model. As far as like the the cost of tokens, it does seem like there is sort of a race to the bottom with generating the tokens, and it seems like the same patterns emerging for embedding models as well. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But I imagine that there'll be multiple winners in this space. But in my opinion, it'll probably be most of the hyperscalers and cloud providers.
Interesting. So just in the essence of time here, I got to ask, you guys are all, current customers and users of Paperspace, now DigitalOcean. If you could just tell me a bit about sort of what you're doing, are you kind of what the stack looks like and what you're doing today with Paperspace and DigitalOcean. Maybe I'll start with you, Chang.
Oh yeah, so we're actually extremely excited and happy working together with Paperspace DigitalOcean, in a fashion that basically you guys are providing the best infrastructure and platform for orchestrating GPUs and providing GPUs, and we are actually able to build a specific vertical platform and also the solutions. One of the things we particularly liked is basically the turnaround time and the ability to innovate on top of the old school, I would say, infrastructure mindset, so that we can adapt to the GPU capabilities like the bare metal and like the high performance network and things like that really efficiently. And yeah, we've collaborated for so far like 3 months, I think, and it's been pretty awesome. And we really appreciate
Awesome.
the collaboration.
Yeah, definitely. Jacob, how are you using kind of the DO Paperspace today?
Yeah, we're using Paperspace both to train our next generation model and to serve our models for inference. Those are fairly different use cases. With training, you care a lot about the interconnect speed between your nodes, and for inference, usually I care less about that. But we've been very happy using Paperspace for both of those, and we plan to continue using Paperspace. I think it's likely that when you see this and you download SuperMA, press a key, that'll be hitting a Paperspace machine, most likely.
Very, very cool. Yeah, Nomic, how's Nomic using Paperspace today?
Yeah, echoing the same sentiments as everybody else. Like we've loved our experience. I think we've been using Paperspace for close to a year now at this point. I think that one of the great things about working with you guys has been the customer experience. You guys are always online. It's always getting if I ever do run into a problem, you guys are fast to fix it. And then also the customization of the machines, I think has been really great. If you go to some other providers, you don't really get a say in like what is the interconnect, what is your bandwidth, and I think that's been really awesome to have a little bit more say and make sure that we're getting the most bang for our buck in these machines, because as many people know, they can be quite costly. So yeah, it really helps train our models.
Awesome. Well, let me switch gears a bit. You guys are at the forefront of this technology. Everything from, I know I've seen you guys work through some very low level, driver and infrastructure questions, all the way up to building out, high performance serving frameworks that can deliver to your customers. This one's a bit more speculative, but I guess what are you really excited about? This could be a technology, it can be a direction, it can be, just something about the industry. But, just as a parting, thought, I'm sure folks would love to hear from you guys just being at the center of it. What do you see in 5 years? And is there anything even kind of more recent that you're really excited about that you think will change how AI is used or adopted? Maybe I'll start off with Jacob.
Sure. It's really hard to predict the future of AI, and who knows what the future holds. But I personally am very hopeful that AI is going to empower people to deliver on their visions more and be able to execute faster without needing a huge team of people behind you. Whether that's in the domain of video or images, where maybe within 5 years, you might be able to make like a feature-length movie just as an individual person. I think that'd be really cool. Or as a developer, being able to ship a much more complex app, in a shorter amount of time and without needing a big company's resources behind you. That's what I'm excited about.
Before we go to the next one, I just want to say, I think, what SuperMaven is working on is something that, having started a software company from scratch, having to build a stack from scratch, having to onboard engineers and have them familiarize themselves with the code base, I can see immediate value in how that could accelerate us. I wish we had these tools 10 years ago when we were starting our company for the first time. And it's going to be a really interesting change once these tools really become sort of additive to the process. Zach, I don't know. I know you just got done releasing a really massive open source model that's been all over the Twitter sphere. So I know you've been busy, but is there anything that you're seeing or particularly excited about in the space?
Yeah, I think one thing that I am definitely biased, but I am excited about is just like giving people the ability to look at larger swaths of their unstructured data all at once, right? At least for me in the ML world, a year or two ago, most of the time when I was like debugging data, if my model wasn't performing well, I'd only be able to look at like a few hundred points, whether this is in like a pandas like random sample or it made some like really small t-SNE plot. But I think like using Atlas or tools like Atlas to visualize large amounts of data really gives people the ability to debug their machine learning systems and actually understand their data that they're working with. Because I think there is a big blind spot for a lot of these systems, and I think that hopefully will translate to the enterprise as well, which I'm very excited about.
Yeah, and I'll give a shout out to Nomic's Atlas product, which if you haven't seen it, I'd encourage all the viewers to go check it out, because even the tools that are being developed today that allow us to make sense of just the sheer scale of data that's going into these models, it's pretty mind blowing how far we've come, even in the very recent past. So I know, Zheng, you've seen this develop for a long time, from kind of early systems to where we're at today. We've chatted in the past about sort of how you see this industry developing, but anything you're particularly excited about in maybe the near term, kind of new developments or anything that kind of gets you excited about this space?
Yeah, I think, like in the next 2 to 5 years, one thing, or actually two things that are going to be like extremely exciting to me is GPU shortage is going to be over and knowledge shortage is going to be over. GPUs, I mean, like we were basically experiencing this short period where like everyone is suddenly needing AI, and then just like the global supply chain is not going to be like catching up. But that's going to be, with the modern industry, I mean, we can pretty much solve that problem in a couple of years, meaning that more people will be able to get in, more people will be able to get the AI capability at a much more cost-effective fashion. The other thing that I'm super excited is that open source has been going really quickly. I mean, OpenAI has been creating greatest latest models, but the open source community is always only just like a couple months kind of behind and catching up really fast, which basically means that the knowledge of actually distilling these kind of AI capability together with people's own data, people's own scenarios, is going to be like improving the efficiency and the accuracy another 10x. So I think that's going to be happening within, well, the next 2 years or even shorter, and that will drive actually the next round of like AI frenzy, I would say.
Wow. Yeah, very exciting. Yeah, I was thinking through my version of this, and there's just so much to follow. In the open source community, I think that's, to me, really where this is going to be driven the most. The ability to turn, training or fine tuning or pre-training and making that less expensive. I'm not sure if the GPU shortage will let up as quickly as we might hope, just given that
Hopefully.
the
Right.
demand seems to be pretty insatiable, and just the scale of what people want to do and what they're capable of doing with 100 lines of PyTorch now is pretty incredible. Well, I just want to, before we wrap up, I just want to encourage everyone who, I guess, who's listening to this, definitely go check out Lepton, Supermaven, and Nomic. They really are at the forefront of this technology. And hopefully we'll get to a point in the not too distant future when, some of this expertise can become more broadened, because it's been a real pleasure kind of seeing what you guys are building, and excited about continuing working with you. So with that, I will sign off and thank you for your time.